Greetings to China Expose News Talk. I'm James J. Tsidkenu. Some of you guys may have seen part of this story here having to do with the Mexican tanks on 60 News Talk on my other channel, but this is the extended version where I will add some additional information, not to this story, but stuff kind of related to this story. Okay, but for those who didn't hear the story on 60 News Talk and don't know what is this thing about the Chinese Mexican tanks, let me explain to you the story, and then we'll move on to the additional parts I wanted to add. There's been a rumor going around in the last couple of weeks on social media that Chinese tanks were spotted in the jungle of Mexico. So I went out and I decided to investigate this because I had a couple of my subscribers actually tell me, hey, check this out. There's some things going on here. There's some talk about these tanks, and they want to know what's going on with it. And what I found out is the person that reported this claims that this was a report that came out in 2009. That was reported to him in 2009. This is some Mexican journalist who said that the story goes that there was a trucker coming in from Guatemala into Mexico, and there was some small little town, Jupachaba, I can't pronounce the name now. But anyway, when he was getting to this one town, getting close to it, I guess heading in that direction, he pulled to the side of the road, he left his truck, and he went into the woods to take a piss. At that point in time, he's seen thousands and thousands of tanks, and the tanks had little red stars on them. Of course, that many of the tanks from China have a red star on them, and communism tanks in the past have had like red stars on them. So, but this is what the report was given. But this is almost a 10-year-old report, and there are some YouTubers out here, and maybe they don't realize, or they haven't actually looked too much into this report. They don't realize that this is a 10-year-old. This isn't old news. It's old stuff. Talked about these thousands of tanks. But I'm kind of highly suspicious about the entire story having to do with these tanks. Now, like I told people, I have done investigations. I've done other work, and I've done work for the government and other stuff. But this is kind of stupid that somebody who's driving a truck, out in the middle of nowhere, let's say a semi-trailer or whatever, just say it's a pickup truck. It doesn't elaborate if it's a pickup truck or a big rig or whatever, but it's just a truck. So he's driving up to this one city. He pulls along the side of the road to take a leak. This is a third world country, man. Most part, people just go in there, pull to the side of the road, and find the nearest tree and take a leak. They don't go wandering off into the freaking jungle. First of all, you could lose sight of the road, and if you don't know what you're doing, just by going so many feet into the jungle, you can get lost. You can go in the wrong direction. Before you know it, you're lost in the middle of the desert. You didn't even find that road no more. That's just an idiotic mistake, okay? Second of all, why would you want to leave a truck parked on the side of the road where you might have bandits or somebody coming over and stealing your truck? All right, which is kind of stupid, okay? You don't move away much from your truck. You go take the leak as fast as you can and get the heck out of there. That's what you do. And Mexico has a lot of problem with people stealing stuff, bandits and stuff. It's not to say they're all bad. No, this is a fact. And there's also people being kidnapped, okay? No, so what you do is you basically, for the most part, what I see is these truckers will pull to the side of the road in these third world countries and just go somewhere there really close by and take a leak, go right on the other side of the truck. That's it. Unless he was taking a number 2 and he wanted to get a little bit more deeper in there. You know what I mean? But I don't think so. And here's another one. Let's say there are thousands of tanks out there in the jungle somewhere. Why would the military be so stupid? If this is supposed to be some kind of a clandestine operation, why would they be so stupid of putting all these tanks, thousands of them, so close to a freaking road where somebody can just get off their vehicle and walk up to the edge and see the tanks? It wouldn't happen. I really doubt that. So this whole story having to do with Chinese Mexican tanks, now it could be they were tanks bought from China that still had the red star, which I don't see it. I think China would have erased those stars, and we should have just made it all camouflage if they were selling tanks to Mexico. Thousands of tanks. And with a deal like that, it's hard to keep the people quiet in the Mexican government. If there was a deal to buy thousands and thousands of tanks from China, that would have been known. Somebody somewhere would have spilled the beans of a big giant sale of tanks to Mexico from China. And it doesn't seem like that news ever came out. All right, not for I haven't been able to find it. You know, so did the Chinese secretly send in these tanks, and are they there now? Thousands and thousands of tanks. Now here's where the extended story comes, because this story so far, a lot of stuff kind of says is malarkey, but it may have something behind it. Maybe there is something behind these tanks. Maybe somebody wants to inform us, or somebody wanted to tell us in some ways of tanks being in Mexico from China. There's another story. It so happened that the same individual who puts out these kind of stories put out another story in 2012. Okay, many of you maybe have not heard of this story. That's why it's kind of exclusive. Not exclusive, but it comes here, and I will cover it. This guy has put it out there, and I found it actually looking for stuff on this story. I ran into the other story, but not on YouTube. I ran it on somewhere on other stuff. But there is a story put out by the same reporter. It seems like the same reporter, along with somebody else, they have put out a story that an intelligence officer working with echelons, okay, the ones that spies on all these countries, okay, but on the Australian branch, working, I forgot the name of that branch, but there's an intelligence group there working, that he had a brother, all right, from the U.S., I guess, was from the U.S., and one day when his brother was visiting him, and they were all having, you could say, having drinks, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, okay, I'm not going to give you this, detail on the story, but it's just go along with me. And that's what he basically got drunk with his brother, or had too much to drink. He started to tell a story about China being in Mexico. And the story he told his brother was that the Chinese built around 12 bases close to the U.S.-Mexican border. So there's supposed to be, according to this individual, now this is a story that was given back 2012. Okay, there's supposed to be bases out in between the U.S. border and northern Mexico, and the desert areas and different areas. There's supposed to be Chinese actual bases built by the Chinese, and these bases, according to what this individual said, they're not manned, but each base could hold up to about 50,000 individuals. That's what the guy says. The bases are supposed to be manned with a skeleton crew, which basically turns over the engines on the tanks, which checks the gear, but nobody is really on that basis. For the most part, it's empty. They're just built out there. And the reason that the Chinese build them out there is to have all their equipment in place. And here's the thing where the story gets a little bit on the wild side. The story, the guy from the intelligence, the brother, tells this guy that the reason they have it is the whole plan is for China, if in case that the U.S. that China were to make a move against Taiwan and the U.S. protected Taiwan, then the Chinese will send in thousands of troops to man these 12 bases, and what they will do is then invade the U.S. western coast. For the most part, all the way from Texas going to the west coast, to California, you could say. All on that border, they will invade to take hostages, whole cities, whole town, to take them as hostage. Okay? So then they could negotiate for Taiwan. Yeah, I know what you're wondering. That sounds like an extremely wild story. But that's what they said. Now, here's another one. They said that the U.S. intelligence know that the Chinese have these bases. So I will say to the Chinese, if the U.S. intelligence know exactly where your base is at, then basically what you have, if you send 50,000 men, you send 50,000 dead people, send in the body bags along with them. Let each one of them carry their own body bag. Because that's what you're going to get, is 50,000 dead people. Okay, even if you send thousands and thousands, because once the U.S. know where your base is at, they're going to track it, and they're going to monitor 24/7. Once you decided to man up your bases, they're going to drop the big one on it, no matter if it's Mexican soil or where in the hell they're at. They're not just going to allow the Chinese to walk in here. Well, I hope. Of course, if our intelligence has been compromised completely by communism and socialism, and they're part of a deep state, which they don't want to pay attention to the president of the United States, then they may not say nothing, allow the entire invasion to take place, and then we'll have to duke it out with citizens against Chinese, communist pigs from China. All right, we'll have to deal with it ourselves, and we'll see how far that goes. Because remember, they will have military-grade weapons. We will not going to be armed with those kind of weapons. Okay, and who knows what else? They'll have tanks and they'll have artilleries and all this. According to this guy, the story is there are supposed to be artillery pieces on this base, and these 12 bases. It's supposed to be like 12 bases. So is it a bunch of malarkey? Could these tanks that's supposed to have been sighted out there in the middle of nowhere have to do with this story that came out also in 2012? You know? Or is somebody trying to send us a message? There are Mexicans, Mexicans involved. I mean, there are Chinese involved in Mexico setting up areas of interest, you could say, that could cause problems in the future with the U.S. Could the Chinese be setting up assets in southern Mexico to take on the U.S.? For years, I've been saying this, that China wants to get close to the U.S., and this is why they're all over in Central America and the Caribbean. And they could move in their ICBMs right up to our border undetected. Well, they could actually move them in there. Because remember, all it takes is subs. Okay, once they have access to ports, they could park their subs or their ships in there, and their ships could contain nuclear weapons. All right, I'm sure there are treaties having to do this where they can't do it, but who cares? The Chinese don't care about treaty. Just ask all those thousands and thousands of people who have had their patents stolen by China. They don't care about anything that the U.S. has to say. They just go out and do it no matter what. Then they expect the U.S. to comply with international law. Screw you, Chinese communist bitches. Okay, excuse the word. But that's the way it is. You know, could China be preparing that? I would not put it across that maybe this whole thing about tanks and about bases is more of a message being sent out by somebody or some group telling there are Chinese and they are dealing with Mexico. And now when the Mexican president finally becomes the new president officially becomes president, even Xi Jinping is supposed to show up for the inauguration, along with that idiot from Venezuela, another communist pig, are supposed to show up. I will not be surprised if we'll see some of our people from the left, some of the communist socialist pigs that we have in our Democratic Party, go to that inauguration. All right? Because they're all in bed together. That's what it is. You know? So we're going to see what happens there. You know? So these bases, do they exist? I really can't say. Is there a message being sent trying to put it out to the public? Maybe. But I think our intelligence, if there is something where the Chinese are involved in there, the president and our intelligence department should say something about it, because you need support from American citizens. And the people on the West Coast and on that border, you know, between Texas all the way up to California, should get prepared, should know that there is a possibility that Chinese could try to overrun the U.S. You could say the western part of the U.S. Okay, there could be a plan for that. But I can tell you right now, there is a plan for that. The Chinese do have a plan, and I'm 100% sure, even though I have not seen it, but from what I can hear from all their activity and what I see, there is a plan in place to demolish the U.S. Would it be economically, or to cause some kind of a civil war within the U.S., or some other way? But they're out to destroy the U.S. And here's another one I want to drop on you guys. And I'll probably make a more detailed talk about this. The Chinese are also involved in Mexico to buy off radio stations so they can then jet out their propaganda into San Francisco and to California. That's communist propaganda. According to sources, and from what I hear from people that have to do with it, the FCC still hasn't. I think they still have not approved the license for this station. All right, it's this one station that the Chinese are attempting to buy in Mexico, because what they found out from what I hear from these reports is they found out that the intelligence has found out, U.S. intelligence has found out that this group that is trying to buy these Mexican radio stations are based in Taiwan. Remember, they sit in Taiwan. They try to cover their tracks in Taiwan because since we're like friendlier to Taiwan, they try to cover their tracks. So we think it's Taiwanese when it's not. It's socialist, communist, Chinese straight from the mainland, from China, who operate companies in Taiwan. All right. And then they spread their technicals around the world. So they're involved in this. And here's the thing is, following it back, the group trying to buy the radio station in Mexico is tied to a company in Taiwan, and that company in Taiwan is directly tied to the propaganda branch of China. There you go, the communist propaganda branch of China. So what they're expecting is that they will take over this station. They will, if they get the station, because the FCC, from what I hear, is they're not blocking. I think they still haven't made a decision. But here we're going to run into another problem. How many communists and socialists are we have in the FCC? Who will allow, because here's the thing is, even though it's in Mexican territory, there's an agreement between, it seems to be an agreement between Mexico and the U.S. They cannot broadcast or broadcast a signal into the U.S., and they have to be a certain miles away, I think 300 miles away or something like that. They could not just they had to get permission from the FCC in order to get the signal to go into the U.S. or there will be some kind of political problem there. Okay, so that seems to be a problem there. But they could get, with this new president taking charge, they could get the new president in Mexico could push the FCC to allow this sale of this station. Of course, they will try to make it look like this is just a Chinese investor from Taiwan who's buying a station to help out the community. Because always helping out the community, and it's always to put informative information. It's always BS. They'll give you a line of BS, just like the Chinese has always been, you could say, since they have become communists, is 100% lies and BS. Okay. And then once they get the station rolling, they'll wait a couple of months, probably put out the weather, put out some news about the local situation in that part of their country, and this stuff. And little by little, they will turn it into. First, they'll start. I guarantee you, this is the way it's going to work. First, they'll start off with soft propaganda, and it will to air into the U.S. Because here's the thing: is from what I understand, is the Chinese are going to put it in Chinese language, and it's really being targeted at a lot of the Chinese in California and in San Francisco. It's targeted at them. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to recruit more Americans for their espionage, is what they're trying to do. What better people to recruit for your espionage than to recruit Chinese Americans who have generations in the U.S.? That's the best ones that the Chinese will love to recruit, because they will have access to join the military, and with the proper support from China, they will have access to other stuff. So that's the ones they will want to target. So the whole thing is to brainwash. You see, the Chinese are already involved in our colleges under these different programs. They have different programs having to do with I can't remember the name now, but they're involved. I made a report having to do with China in our colleges. It's a Confucian institution. They're involved in like about 100 colleges with this Confucian institution. So they have penetrated our colleges, and on top of that, these Chinese people, companies, and other people have poured in billions of dollars, millions, not billions, billions of dollars, millions of dollars into our Chinese universities, basically buying off university. So, and they're flooding these colleges. Half of the foreign students that come to the U.S. to apply for visas are from China. And the U.S., like a bunch of prostitutes, are opening up their legs and giving them every single visa they want for their Chinese students, which are trained in China as part of the PLA, which are members of the PLA, many of them, and the CCP, the Communist Party. And they come to study in the U.S. and basically do their espionage and bring in the communist propaganda. That's why we're having so many students in the U.S. turning into communists and socialists. But our U.S. government continues to give them the visa to come in. Hey, bring in your propaganda. We're our worst enemy. We are our worst enemy. Because we're falling to the pressure from the universities who are telling the U.S. government, well, if you don't bring in a visa, if you don't bring the Chinese, how are we going to keep the program cheap? Bull. You know what? Let them go out of business. New universities will pop up, and American students will go to it, and we will make up the difference on that money. A lot of American students can't even get into the universities anymore because they're flooded with stinking Chinese communist bastards from China. All right? And so that's a lot of stuff going on. There's more stuff going on with China inside Mexico. There's also talk that they've been buying or getting control of seaports in Mexico. This is one of the biggest things that they do in all third world countries. Is one of the first things they do is take control of seaports, because they can then take control of the port, bring in whatever they want, and they will not even be reported to the people, the local people, what they're bringing in, who's stocking what and doing what on that seaport. And this way they can start flooding in the country with whatever they want. Okay. Another thing is they seem to be involved in Mexican media, and pretty soon they'll take probably that over, just like they have taken over the U.S. media. We are under attack by China on a 24/7. Except the way they're acting is all clandestine, and a clandestine attack 100%. We have not launched any major attack against the Chinese. There is one attack that we may have launched against China that I'm beginning to notice. Something to do with the internet that we may have done, and I'm not 100% sure about it. But it would have been a great tactic if we did do that. All right, but that's only one thing that we could have done, or maybe are doing. I'm not going to get into the details, because if they're doing it, I hope they get away with it, and we're able to get what we need to get from China. I think if you have an IQ like me, about 142, you're going to figure it out. You're going to figure it out what they're doing. I hope that is the case. There'll be one thumbs up for our side. But I can't be 100% sure, and I'm not going to talk about it, because then I'm going into the realm of conspiracy theories, and I don't want to head into that direction too much, especially when I don't have hardcore proof. The only thing I have is what I see in front of my eye in the operation, and what's being said and what's being done. All right, so I'll leave it there. So anyway, people, please, when you get to this channel, subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get 1,000 subscribers, and I need 4,000 views on this channel in order to get monetizing. I've not been able to get this, and I'm kind of confused. I said it on my other channel when I posted my other video having to do with these tanks, that I'm confused about my viewers, because I don't know if you guys are looking for Chinese news from China, or if you're just looking for more news having to do with the U.S. and global news. I don't know. I thought I seemed like I had a lot of people that were interested in the Chinese stuff, but wow, that's all I have is like 3, and I've been out here almost 2 weeks now, and you people, all you had to do was come over from the 60 News Talk, come over here and subscribe, and I would have seen the numbers would have been up there. We should have been up to 1,000 or over 1,000 now, because I'm supposed to have about 30,000 viewers. There should have been at least 1,000 here. I don't see it. I don't know. Maybe there's not that much interest for it. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. Okay? Because if I don't get a lot of interest on this channel, I have to put out 2 videos. I have to put out multiple videos. I have to put videos out for YouTube. For my YouTube channel, the 60 News Talk, and I got to put out videos for this channel. And most of this channel will be dedicated to the Chinese stuff. But I need to see support and whatever you can. Also, if you can monetize support, it would be great. Also, some monetize support for this. I got to get some gear, some newer stuff that I need to get. Whatever you can do. But show that you're interested in this, and pass out the videos, and try to get maybe subscribe, because subscription kind of indicates to me if people are interested or not. Okay, the other channels for the most part is being killed right now. I have complained to YouTube about it to see what they want to do. If they don't do anything, I'm just going to continue to collect data from what I'm getting on there. Taking the snapshots, taking the data that I can, and every time I send them a letter, I take copies of this so they know what's being sent to them. So we'll see what happens. Donald Trump is talking about going after the social media, okay, for a whole bunch of stuff, trying to shut down freedom of speech, okay, on Americans, because they only want to hear what the left has to say, and they don't want to hear what the conservatives or anybody on the right has to say. So this could be a problem, an issue, a very big issue coming down the road. We'll see how big it gets. I hope it does get big, and all these platforms get their act together. So anyway, but we have to collect data, because maybe there will be a giant door open up for multiple, thousands of lawyers to come in and do multiple class action lawsuits against a lot of these medias. Okay, I don't know. So I collect my data and keep it in file. So we'll see what happens. So anyway, people, thank you for coming. I hope you guys can support the channel, thumbs up and subscribe. Show that you are interested in this channel. And if you're not too interested and I don't see too much movement on this channel, then, I'll have to just stay over there in 60, I guess. And continue to report what I can. Okay, so anyway, have a great one. Have a blessed one, and we'll see what happens. Okay, thank you, and we'll see you. Remember, I need about 1,000 subscribers and about 4,000 views, and I need you people to help out on this. Thank you, and have a blessed one. Bye-bye now.